As always, we can count on the United Kingdom, and they've come through again, and likewise, we deeply appreciate their military contribution to the campaign. But more than just these political military things, we deeply appreciate the outpouring of support that we receive from British people during this time of challenge and crisis. I had a chance to extend their condolences to Her Majesty's citizens who are lost in the world.
And on the issue of terrorism, thank you too for what you've said about the Northern Ireland peace process. That, I think, is a very good example about how, from very, very dark circumstances, we've had to live with terrorism, and the people of Northern Ireland, much worse, have had to live with terrorism for year after year after year. It's killed hundreds of people. But from very, very dark beginnings, it is possible to see a light, and then provided the process is kept going, through those difficulties, you can achieve a result, and that, I believe, is what has happened. Thank you.
Well, I think it's important for us to try to get back to where we were a week and a half or so ago when we started to see some movement toward Mitchell Committee implementation, interrupted by the tragic death of the Israeli cabinet minister. But right now I think it's important for Chairman Arafat to do everything within his power to make the arrest of those who are responsible and to get the violence down to zero, preferably, but to the lowest level possible. And I think at this time would be appropriate for the Israeli government to immediately withdraw from the Area A villages that they have occupied. And let's try not to let this cycle of violence become even more intense than it has been in recent days. It's a very volatile period, and I would like to see this start moving in the other direction.
First, as a soldier, how much do you think you're going to be able to?
We're of course, sensitive to the fact that Ramadan will be beginning in the middle of November, and winter also will start about that same time, the winter period, which makes military operations more difficult. But the important point to remember is we have military objectives to accomplish. And I would like to see all of those objectives accomplished in the next few days. And as we approach this period of Ramadan and winter, we'll just have to make an assessment at that time as to where we are. And if it's necessary to continue military action, then that's the judgment that I'm sure the President will support. We'll wait to hear from our military authorities about it. We're sensitive to Ramadan, but we can't let that be the sole determinant of whether or not we continue our military activities. Possible, and I think at this time would be appropriate for, but we can't let that be the sole determinant of whether or not we continue our military.